I know we're a little early. Conference calls will do that for you. So 9 to 11 this morning. I know we're off of Turner time just today. As you know, the two season goes along, we have the opportunity to catch up with the coaching staff, and we get ready for the games on a weekly basis. Happy Friday, Ricky. Good to see you. And so 11 o'clock is when that's scheduled. So we're 9 to 11 this morning. And as always, it is one of those things where it's whatever's on your mind. We've got news this morning. Ricardo Pepi is officially official on his move. So there's that. And we'll go through all of the gossip, rumor, and innuendo. 9:30, unless the guys are like spending family time in the summer on vacations and things. Hopefully we'll catch up with our friends at Beyond Goals Mentoring. Could be Greg, could be Michael. We'll find out. Morning, Alex. Hope you're doing well. And 10 o'clock is when we start the Weekend Whiparound, patent pending, trademark coming. And we'll get you ready for the weekend. Any questions that you guys have when it comes to Atlanta United and their trip to Montreal. It will be one of the tougher places to play. You know, you ask Jared Smith. Jared has been there. Mike and Jason have been there. A lot of folks have been there in Major League Soccer, and not a lot of folks outside of CF Montreal, formerly Impact, have had the chance to come away with full points. Morning, Nix. Morning, Unc. And aloha ho alohas. Okay, friends. Okay, that's new. I was not aware of that. So I'm learning something new every day. But so as the show goes, whatever's on your mind is we're heading into the weekend. So like I said, 9:30. Hopefully we'll get to hear from our friends at Beyond Goals Mentoring and catch up with them about mentoring and news and how it would apply to mentees. And 10 o'clock we'll get you ready for the weekend in Major League Soccer, go through all the juice boxes, all the plot lines, and all of the news of the morning, transfers, gossip, and all that kind of stuff. So opening kickoff brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee. KickoffCoffeeCO.com. Okay, so Nix is heading to the beach tomorrow. Very, very cool. And, hey, look, nothing wrong with Hilton Head. Take your clubs. Plenty of places to play. For opening kickoff this morning, I was trying to think of something to have as a part of the discussion. And, you know, you sit there and as you do, you're here on a Friday and you're going, okay, so what in the wide world of sports is going on? You got rumors this morning. You're looking at sales, things like that, and getting ready for the Women's World Cup. I wanted to mention one of those moments that you hope will continue to rub off on folks. And we got into it a little bit when it first happened, but it ended up being a bit of a one-liner. And this will be, I guess, part and parcel to a whole couple of different things. Hannah Dingley is going to be the interim manager for League Two side Forest Green Rovers. I know our Evertonians remember that Duncan Ferguson was the guy in charge. He was the man in charge for 6 months. He was, I guess it was some kind of mutual parting of the ways at Forest Green. And Hannah Dingley, who's in charge of the academy, got promoted to be in charge of the first team. Interim manager now. And they had their first match with her. First female manager in men's English professional football, a 1-1 draw and a friendly against the non-league side, but still nevertheless. Morning, Ropes. There were a lot of folks who were obviously intrigued by this hire. And then, of course, you know, you get your slings and arrows that you traditionally get in something like this. But it was a 1-1 draw against the non-league side. First time ever you had something like this happen. And, you know, in the coverage of it from Ben Fisher over at The Guardian, it's an evening when the result all feels rather secondary with Forest Green and a draw. Question remains, could Dingley be handed the reins on a full-time basis? And the hires up were asked about it. I don't know if she's going to apply for it or not. If she does, she'll be in the process with everybody else. We'll have hundreds of applicants. We'll do a thorough job, and we'll appoint on merit. Doesn't matter what your gender is, your sexuality, your race. We're not interested. Regardless, the man in charge hopes that Dingley will inspire others. Quote, it could inspire a generation of coaches to think that there's not a bar and that they can be in the men's game. Now remember, Forest Green, they're different. They're just different. Last year, they became the first team to travel to a sporting event in a zero-emissions vehicle a few months after using their advertising billboards to flash up climate emergency warnings. 12 years ago, when the man in charge rescued Forest Green football, Dale Vince, the owner of the League Two club. He says, everyone said the environment doesn't belong in football. Now, if you speak to directors in League One and Two and the others we've been in, they're all talking about the environment, and it's the same with women in football. It's getting here. Girls and women in football, other sports, non-sports, will be thinking, hell, are there actually any limits? The article continued from The Guardian. The more cynical would argue the decision is a stunt, something of a gimmick. The owner, in the quote, how would the owner respond to such a suggestion? Quote, I would say F off. Of course, he didn't say F. He said the extended version. It is just a cheap shot. It's hard not to smile when Dingley says she's not one for the limelight in front of a throng of media 20 minutes after the match. The world's gaze prompts Vince to say he feels as if he's in an episode of Ted Lasso. Dingley said, I wanted the attention to be on the players. I'd like them to get the preparation they need for the campaign and for nothing to take away from that, because if it does, then it's probably the wrong thing to do to put me in this position in the first place. Crowd of 696 yesterday. Stadium announcer said it would be remiss of me not to welcome Hannah Dingley, who's making footballing history tonight. The owner for Forest Green says everything is possible at the start of the season. It was their first preseason friendly. New season's up and running. So Hannah Dingley, 1-1 draw against a non-league side. And for anybody that says that this is a publicity stunt, the owner of the team basically said F off. You hope that when you have a day, like yesterday in the sport, where something like this happens, that everyone knows that there are no limits. There shouldn't be any limits. We all know that there are for various and sundry reasons. But you hope that a day like this, or a day like yesterday, will lead to more days like yesterday. So Hannah Dingley and Forest Green Rovers. We'll keep an eye on that. That's your opening kickoff, brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee, kickoffcoffeeco.com. There's your QR code. For those of you who are watching on Twitch, once again, don't forget to use the code SoccerDownHere15. You get 15% off your purchase. And then they, in turn, take 10% reinvested into youth games and youth initiatives. Very, very cool stuff from our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. Morning, y'all. You've got Sharif is in. Good morning. Alex is in. Alex envisioning Uncle out on the West Coast. You got to start with the 6 a.m. coffee. Alex has this vision of Uncle out in Portland. In my imagination, I picture you setting your alarm last night just to get up in time to catch the horror conversation on Franco. Uncle admits he only usually catches the second half of the show. How was the dental procedure, by the way? And what was the dental procedure? Because dental procedures aren't fun. In the last year, I have had a root canal and then the fillings that go with it. And my orthodontist basically is like, okay, we could do this for another couple of teeth and get you capped, and then you'd be good to go. Okay. Yeah, I'll get right on that. I mean, I know I have to, but it's one of those things where you sit there and you go, really? Honestly? You know, it's stuff that you know that you've got to get done. You're not a fan of getting it done. Uncle, obviously, we hope you're okay. But what was the procedure? Because, like I said, I've been through having teeth capped and a root canal all in the last, well, a little less than a year. So we'll say year. But yeah, I've never been a fan of the dentist, especially when you're not under and they're doing all of the drilling. And this is probably evolving into more of an opening kickoff than anything else. Looking at all of that stuff when it comes to having things going on in your mouth and you're not under and you're just kind of hearing it and you're kind of feeling it, but kind of not. And I live maybe a mile. Yeah. Oh, crown. Okay. Crown redone. Okay. Right. Okay. Let's see. Now that's, yeah. Yeah. Dental does. Yeah. I'm not a fan of needles either. I just know that it's kind of the drill, and I know that it's got to get done. So it's just like, okay, get it over with. And then you kind of like look off. Nick's, I'm right there with you. Nick's leaves his body and tries to disassociate. I'm right there with you. But hopefully, everything is okay with the crown getting redone and the visit to the dentist / orthodontist. Hopefully, you don't have another one for another years, plural. But yeah, needles are not fun. Dentists are not fun. Not one bit. Yeah, ropes. Don't say Don't say that. Don't say drill. But yeah, just glad you're okay, Unc, and hope that everything is fine. I know that. Now, like I said, on mornings like this, after what happened yesterday, I know that's what you guys want to talk about, and I know that you guys were talking about it a lot in the Twitch pitch yesterday. So keep the discussion going. I mean, that's what the Twitch pitch is here for. I would ask that, and it's on YouTube. So I would ask that if you have the time, or just if you have, if you're like having a meal, or if you're in your car, or something where you have about a half hour, I would ask, and this is what I kind of like to do here. Go back and listen to the press conferences that were held, the press opportunities yesterday. Oh no. Oh, Uncle. Oh, sorry about who your dentist looks like. My apologies. Go back and listen to the press conferences or the press opportunities from Gonzalo Pineda and Carlos Bocanegra. So like I said, it's about 25 minutes. Just go back and listen to that as a part of the process here. So that would be my requested listening, viewing for today. They're up there, and all you got to do is just go to the Atlanta United YouTube channel and listen to the Q&A that was had, so that way everything has its full response from Carlos and from Gonzalo Pineda yesterday. So just as a part of the process, go and just listen to those two things on the YouTube channel yesterday as a part of the whole. And understanding that from their perspectives, and when the question and answers were put out there, that it's part of a larger picture. We're at the beginning of a transfer window. And so we should have, and this was brought forward in the press opportunities. It's not, it's not, and Hutch, it's not an urge to purge. When you're in a situation where you are trying to, because of the designations that are given to players, and you have a loan terminated early, you get a numbers game. And you have to address that in the numbers game. And so the decision that ended up happening was that Franco Ibarra will be loaned out. Doug Robertson reported yesterday that it looks like it's Toronto. And that's where that's where it might be when we have a better answer to where you're staring at it. And Unk is Unk is a part of the discussion this morning. Losing the one decent U22 player when you have four, it's not ideal. Wiley, right now, unless something dramatic changes, which I hope it does, we are 100% wearing clown shoes for the trade window. Michael Head, how do you sign 4 U22s? More important, how is it that no one wants 75% of your U22s, players that cost $13 million in transfer fees? Wiley, Lopez, and Mosqueda look like damaged goods that'll be lucky to get rid of at some point. Knicks, how do you mutually terminate a loan? Feels a lot like a mutual breakup, wherein it's never mutual. Just tired of the platitudes. The best way probably that I would think about a mutual termination of a loan, let's go to our friends at Transfermarkt. Let's see what Mosqueda's numbers were and how many games he was available for Defensa y Justicia. So let's get into the stats and look at it this way. Mosqueda in 23 had only played 6 matches for Defensa. He'd played 12 last season, or he was part of 12 matches for Atlanta United last year. Loaned to Defensa, 5 matches for DYJ in the Liga Profesional and 1 match in the Copa Sudamericana. So, 5 games in the LPF, and he was either on the bench or not in the squad for the other. So let's see. Not in the squad for 5, substituted in for 5, on the bench for 10. So 15 matches he was available of the 20. But my math is right. 3, 6, 10. So, so 20 matches so far for Defensa this season. Mosqueda had only featured in 5 and was a substitute in all of them. 30 minutes out of the blocks against Gimnasia, on the bench for the next 3. Played 2, came in at the 45th minute, came in at halftime against Boca Juniors. Played 27 minutes against Tijeras on the bench. Played 14 minutes against Vélez Sarsfield on the bench or not in the squad for the next 5. The last match he's actually played for Defensa was back on May the 8th. So where Mosqueda is concerned, if Defensa has only used him in 5 matches out of 20, then it's not doing the player any good. It's not doing DYJ any good. And so then you have the discussions about, okay, the loan itself was supposed to go for the season, but Mosqueda had only played in 5 matches of the 20 that he was available for. So, I mean, if it's in this case, if you're not doing the player any good and you're not doing the team and you're not doing DYJ, if you're DYJ, it's not any good that he hasn't featured for whatever reason. We don't know what that is. And a lot of this is we don't know what we don't know. But Mosqueda only played in 5 matches out of 20. So for DYJ to mutually terminate, or to terminate, it'd be like, it's like, we're not using this guy. You've loaned him to us, and for whatever reasons, which, like I said, which we don't know, Mosqueda just hasn't been used. And so it's counterproductive, and it's counterproductive from a DYJ perspective because it's like, well, maybe we'd like to have an individual who we could bring in that would be, more whatever. And like I said, Mosqueda's only played in 5 of 20. And so the loan mutually agreed to terminate 6 months early, and that creates your numbers problem. Tafka in the morning, people's issues that there never should have been a numbers game. You signed 4 players to 3 slots. Half the players signed weren't worthy of the slot in the first place. Knicks think Chelsea where we can sign 60 players and stash the ones we don't want for a while. And then you have to get rid of the one that was doing stuff for you. Emilio's okay with things. Curiosity is what they're seeing with Sosa only because he can't stay healthy. If he had normal health, I could possibly support the move. I understand the business aspect. And like I said, Michael wants to know about Mosqueda's loan mutually being terminated. Like I said, we don't know what we don't know. And we can look at numbers and we can presuppose things, but unless somebody from Defensa y Justicia comes on the show and sits there and says, well, XYZ, then we can only kind of presuppose an idea. So Wiley, for the look from the outside, is that he's not good enough to be useful. Sam says it'll be okay. Michael Head, it seems that the front office completely mismanaged the U22 initiative. 4s and 3, they're the rules. And Wiley says he wouldn't be surprised if the damaged relationship is with the relationship with Ibarra. But we don't know. But once again, the loan with Ibarra is just for this season. It's a 6-month loan. And he's under contract for a while. So what we've seen from Franco Ibarra is someone who has really grown into the role that he's got. And he came in, let me get Franco's numbers before he came to Atlanta United and was a part of everything in his previous stops. Once again, thanks to our friends at Transfermarkt here. Looking at his stats in all seasons, before he was here, he had only played for 16 matches. Actually, 12. He had played in 12 matches, 10 in the Copa Maradona, 1 in the Copa Sudamericana, and 1 in the Superliga. So he'd only played 12 matches in his professional career before he came here from Argentinos Juniors. And he truly has evolved into that guy that I think a lot of folks were looking into. Knicks, yes. Unless your Miami, then rules or suggestions, and even then. So we'll see. And Emilio, from what I gathered, you wanted to know if Pineda was surprised. I don't know if he was or not, because remember, the loan for Mosqueda was terminated last month. And so there's been time in trying to come up with a solution, and then you just end up with something akin to a drop dead date, and then you've got to make a decision. So don't know if he was surprised. But once again, in the press opportunity from yesterday, you sit there, and Gonzalo's been around Major League Soccer for a long time. And he said basically that the rules are the rules. You understand that the rules are what they are, and then you move on. And so we'll keep an eye on that. And Nix, that was one of the other things I wanted to get into this morning is the situation involving Inter Miami. And I know that one of the underlying threads this morning will be what you guys thought about yesterday, and that's perfectly fine. I mean, that's, like I said, that's what the Twitch pitch is for. That's what we're here for, is for you guys to let your feelings go and to have conversations with others. That's what it's absolutely here for. Ben Jacobs couple hours ago. So this was Ben's over in Europe. So what we are to Unc, Ben Jacobs is to us. Inter Miami really close to finalizing a deal for Jordi Alba. Michelle Kaufman at the Miami Herald first in the door on that one. Managing owner Jorge Mas recently confirmed talks were taking place. Understands significant progress made this week. Jordi Alba joins Lionel Messi, Sergi Busquets in Miami. Pepe signs with PSV. Kim has completed his medical for Bayern. And Michelle is reporting it, and this was yesterday afternoon when she reported it, that it was going to go down. Jordi Alba to sign with Inter Miami. Like I said, this was yesterday afternoon to join Messi and Busquets. And so that's what you're looking at there. Tata Martino had attended his first practice. Once again, Javi Morales is going to be in charge this weekend against DC. So, TAM player, apparently. So we'll see when it comes to Jordi Alba. Everyone is referencing the Kaufman piece. No other independent element outside of Michelle is reporting the Jordi Alba, the Jordi Alba moment. So Luis Miguel Echegaray says, really important part for Inter Miami's hopes to improve. They really need someone who can help build and create the threat in the back. Big get Pizarro on the move. What a lot of folks seem to forget is that they got to stop folks too. Drake Callender is coming into his own, but unless you get some help in the midfield, and maybe it is Jordi Alba, that backline's got some problems. So we'll see what they're looking at. But yeah, Knicks, Jordi Alba is a TAM player, if that's the current structure of the idea. So we'll see. We'll see where this happens. But I think, and this is something that we talked about with Messi, and don't be surprised. Yeah, and don't be surprised in moments like this when you hear. When you hear things, as things lay themselves out, don't be shocked if you see more of these. What we refer to with Messi is that the NIL deal. If you have more of those, where it is cash plus, well, in TV we call it cash plus barter, which is how you would do advertising in situations like that. And if you had a TV show, it could be like a straight swap, and it's like, all right, we could do a barter where we'll do a 50-50 split. There are a bunch of TV terms that were associated with it. So we'll see what happens there. But don't be surprised with these larger names if you see more stuff kind of like the Messi deal, where it's a below salary number, below the 1.6 or 1.7 or whatever it is to turn somebody into a DP. But then you have add-ons and things like that where marketing, merchandising, those kinds of things, endorsement deals. That the Messi deal for me kind of opened a door where you end up with things that could be laid out a certain way, but now because of the landscape having changed with the Messi contract, more guys could be doing stuff like that. So that's kind of where I am when it comes to big names. Big names and deals that are not DP deals, look at it almost perhaps from that perspective. So we'll see what you think there. It is, by the way, 9:30. We get to ask a guy about his golf game and see how his golf game is, among other things. I want to know. I want to know when it comes to golf games. I want to see how this guy's golf game is improving. And is it improving? Because it is the summer. It's one of those times where you get to sit there and think about, yes, I absolutely need pointers from Michael Parkhurst about golf. So here we go. Hi, Cap.
Morning, John. How are you?
Oh, look! All right. So, what's the jersey this morning? By the way.
Oh, the jersey is Providence City FC.
Okay.
They are a local team in obviously Providence, Rhode Island.
Yes. All right. So, this was one of the things that I forgot to bring up the last time. Is that while things are going on with the construction of one place, you have a home.
We do have a home, thankfully. Yes, we'll be kicking off next year at a local college in Rhode Island, Bryant University. Great facilities, so we're lucky to have that partnership. It'll be a good spot for us. Obviously, we'd love to be in our stadium year one, but we'll enjoy it that much more in year two.
And so, for those that haven't had the chance to kind of keep up with things, I know that the process is taking longer for various reasons and things like that. But what's it like for you and for everybody there at Rhode Island FC to get this next stage of the growth part going to where, okay, we know where we're going to be playing. Things are still growing and going, but we now have a home that we can build upon in year number one.
Yeah, it's an important step because we knew the stadium wasn't going to be ready. So then it's trying to figure out what's the best option, and just creating partnerships and just everything I've realized just takes forever. Building a stadium and getting this, that, and the other thing done and signed and sealed, and everything just takes forever. So we're very lucky and very fortunate for this partnership because it's going to be really good for us. We're going to be able to train there and play there. They've got great facilities, so it'll be really good for the guys. It'll set us up well for year one.
And you mentioned what it's been like for you as an education. Hang on just a second. Tell you what, let me take down since you're here. Since you're here, I figured I may as well make sure that folks see.
Yes, sir.
Right there, that does exist. I figured with your segment, we will go ahead and we will have the Rhode Island FC scarf available for viewing and purchasing, by the way. If you go to the website, you can catch up with Rhode Island FC and get the gear. Oh, actually, hang on just a second. I want to check something because your gear, and I mean that in the sense of Rhode Island FC's, there were times where you couldn't get it because you guys were like out of the blocks, and it's like, okay, we're shopping, and it's like everything's on back order. I'm gonna do an order here really quickly. I just want to see if I can get something. Okay, add to cart. All right, so we can add things to carts. All right, so you're stocked up.
Yes, we are.
Get your shopping going. All right, so there's a couple of things, and I know here in Atlanta, folks are fired up yesterday after what happened with Franco Ibarra. When it comes to the rules of Major League Soccer, rules are rules, and it sometimes doesn't come out your way. When it came to your career and your teammates and friends and things like that, Andrew Gutman was another example with Atlanta United as well, with him being moved to Colorado. What's it like for players in Major League Soccer or wherever when you have friends moved, when they're traded, when they go to other places, when they sign new contracts and things like that? What does it do to the friendships and the locker room when you have things like this happen either in season or at the end of a year when it may not necessarily have been expected?
Yeah, I think it depends on the situation because sometimes you're really happy for the guy because he wanted it or he wanted to go at least somewhere else. And other times, like yesterday, I think that it just makes you upset at the front office, honestly. That it got to this situation and now someone who's a big part of the team and playing pretty well is shipped off and they didn't want to be shipped off. And, that's that can hurt a locker room a little bit. I'm not gonna lie. It's that's frustrating. And I know that I was leaving around the same time as those things were going down in Atlanta as well. But yeah, of course, when you see guys like Gressel and Nagby and Leandro and Tito go, and you're like, man, like, and you're still on the team the next year, and you're like, man, we could surely could use those guys right now. But also, good guys in the locker room, things like that. And I know that players don't always understand, the salary cap and everything that's going on. And so there's that as well, right? I mean, every front office has got a tough job to navigate some of the rules in MLS. And to that point, the signing of Messi and FC Barcelona that's coming with him.
Yeah, we'll get into that too.
One of the best things that can come out of that, outside of obviously Messi and his aura, is rule changes.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's like, how are Miami going to do this, that? Well, the number one way they can is just eliminate some of the BS rules. Open up the roster a little bit more for flexibility and allow teams to do what they want. Right? If that change comes from Messi coming in, like, that's such a huge win for MLSPA and the future of the league. Right? I mean, the PA fights hard for some of these things, and then like charter flights, for example, is something we fought for a long time, and then all of a sudden COVID comes, and poof, now we've got the money to do charter flights. David Beckham obviously introduced the DP rule. And so, now how does Messi change the rules? And I'm fine for it, right? If that helps Miami in the short term, whatever, it's going to help everybody else in the long term.
So, all right. So I was going to ask about Messi because we really haven't had the chance to go down this door or this hallway. If you go down a door, then that's going to be a short trip. With Lionel Messi, the way that I have phrased this, it's kind of like an NIL deal, like we're seeing with college football athletes, where they're signing you've got your scholarship to go to insert school here. You're going to Wake Forest. So you're going to Wake Forest to play football or what have you, whatever sport. But then you have all these other businesses that want to sit there and go, hey, we'd like for you to sponsor our product. And they put their, arm over your shoulder and go, hey, you should sponsor our product. We'll give you this. So where Messi is concerned, you have to pay him $11 billion a season. We know that. And as a DP, you can do that. But the NIL deals, the Adidas deal, the Apple deal, all these other pieces that can be brought in, I think that this, you mentioned opening a door here. I think that can also defray those contract numbers where you can sit there and say, well, tell you what, it's almost like the wimpy approach from Popeye. I'll gladly pay you Tuesday for a hamburger today. You show up and we'll pay you this salary. But if you hit these markers, you can also get a piece of the action. And I think that might be a part of this too. This new wave of folks, all these big names coming in their 30s, you get you a salary plus a piece of the action. So it's not completely and totally salary, but the bonus idea is there.
Yeah, and I think that there's very few players that would work for, right? Obviously, Messi is one of them, right? We're talking about, Michael Jordan type contract stuff where, you're getting a piece of the puzzle for forever in the future. But that's, I don't think there's too many players in Europe that we as a league would or should entice over with that type of deal. But Messi is one of them, because I think that everyone's underestimating the amount of eyeballs that he's going to bring. I mean, the Apple TV deal is they're going to make a killing off of it, which is fantastic. So I agree, right? It needs to be done. And, I think that teams have been doing some things like this for a while, right? I mean, I remember a long time ago, FC Dallas had some ballers on their team, and you'd look up at the MLSPA and these guys would be making like 175, 200. And you're like, there's no way they're getting paid elsewhere. Like LA Galaxy were doing it forever. Even Montreal, Piatti for a while was making like 400,000. It was like, there's no way. So it's been happening for a while. It's just been a little quiet. And
now they're saying the quiet part out loud, right?
Yeah, Miami has to.
I mean, well, considering that they got bumped once for 5 for 3,
Exactly.
the whole the Blaise Matuidi thing, and we all know that Santi Sosa hip checked him into the but all right, so there have been folks in the Twitch pitch that want you to be commissioner of Major League Soccer because of what you've been saying here in the first 10 minutes. What would you do? You're MLS commissioner. All right, so Michael Parkhurst has won the election. The Electoral College has come your way, and you are now commissioner of Major League Soccer. How would you address what you think are the out of date ideas for Major League Soccer? Are you adding DPs? Are you getting rid of designations? Because we've talked about it. I mean, for me, it would be a salary cap where you've got a ceiling and a floor, to where if somebody wants to be the Arizona Coyotes, they can. But if somebody wants to be the Dallas Cowboys, they can. What would you do to make it more up to date in your mind? What would you do?
Yeah, I agree with you, John. I think the salary cap is okay, right? If you want to keep a salary cap to keep that level of teams and have everybody have a chance every year. I understand that and I get that. And that's fine. But it's more the rules within the salary cap, right? If you just open up the salary cap and have teams allow them to pay players in whatever buckets they want, right? So you get rid of TAM, GAM, and all the rest of it. You can still have DPs above the threshold of the salary cap because you need that. And yeah, you do have a floor, and you allow teams. I mean, I don't want to say unlimited DPs, but
you want to add one? You want to add one? Just make it 4?
Yeah, I'd add 1 or 2, right? If you've got owners out there that want to go out there and spend money and, create these like super teams, right? I think that's good for the league, right? You're going to hopefully win Champions League and make a mark in, these League Cup tournaments and things like that. And isn't that what we're trying to do? Right? We want to be, better than the Mexican League, but we're handcuffing ourselves in order to try and be better than them. So that's challenging.
You look at this, and I mean, and this is something that has happened to a league. I mean, just in the last handful of years, where you've had owners who want to basically just open the piggy bank. It's like they want to compete, and they understand that right now, I think MLS is like a top 12 league in the world. With a World Cup coming, they understand trying to improve the league, improve its standing, improve the way the sport is represented here in the United States. And for me, I think that you've got to – I think that in Major League Soccer, you've got those owners that want to spend money. You've got those owners that want to build through an academy and do it that way. And then you have those that want to have an academy and also spend, like we've been seeing with Arthur Blank and Atlanta United. You want to build with an academy. You want to bring in guys over the top. So I think that also if there's someone that doesn't want to spend and they see what's going on around them, I can guarantee you that there are businessmen like Michael Parkhurst that would sit there and say, oh, well, bro, I'll buy it from you and I'll spend money. I mean, I think that those guys are out there if you run into those owners that are just kind of like, nah, not interested, because MLS is growing so much.
Totally. And that's where we are right now as far as when the MLSPA gets together for these negotiations with the ownership, right? We can see that the ownership group is split. You've got the old owners who are, the Crafts and Hunts and a few others who like things the way they are, spend as little as possible, while you see your equity grow in the long term. And then you've got new age owners, obviously like Arthur and a bunch of others who want to push things, push the envelope, spend more money, and knowing that the more we spend, the faster our equity is going to grow anyways, and put a better product out there on the field. And so we've seen some internal disagreements over how things should be done.
Yeah.
And so, there are some owners that are on the player side to a certain extent. And it's a battle for them too. It's just that the owners that have been there the longest have the most clout and the most pull within the ownership group, because they've lost the most money. They've been there the longest, and the league wouldn't be here without them. So you have to take that into account for sure. But the amount of ownership teams and groups that are now new age and wanting to push things is growing. So soon, I think they'll have the power to kind of, hey, show up and get on or sell and move on.
It's like get on the train or hop off, because you know that somebody will take your seat, right?
Totally. Yeah, absolutely right. I mean, and I don't want to pick on the Revs, but when I played for them in 2006, 7, I went to an event about a stadium opening. There were mayors and this and that, and so we were getting a new stadium in 2006 or 7. But also from his perspective, like why do you need a new stadium, right? You've got the Revs paying rent for the Patriots, and it's a tax write-off and all this, right? So just one example, right? There's others out there as well. And teams obviously have made mistakes, like Chicago, of putting a stadium in the middle of nowhere and expecting people to show up. Colorado, another one. So there's definitely a few ownership groups out there that still need to be pushed along.
And Colorado has rabid prairie dogs too, that are out there by the stadium from a couple of years ago. I don't know if Stan Kroenke, and this is the thing that gets me about Stan Kroenke, is like, dude, you own Arsenal. It's like you own Arsenal and practically every sports franchise in Denver, but you'll invest a little bit in the Rapids and build a stadium. I mean, it's like in freaking Wyoming or something. It's like having to go all the way out there. When you're having time with your mentees, do they understand? Do they know how quickly soccer has been growing here in the United States over the last 5-10 years, to where, I mean, the growth curve of the sport has gone through the roof? Do they get that they're really trying to grab onto a comet here and something that's really growing in the United States?
I'm not sure. I try to avoid the conversations that make me seem really old. So no, I don't go through the every now and then.
Back in my day,
every now and then a conversation will come up around like how when I entered the league, contracts, guys like Jeff Larenowitz came in making like $16,000 a year, and Chris Wondolowski. And I still remember my first preseason. We had this guy that was on the Revs for a year or two, and he was so excited that he was on a senior developmental contract instead of the lower developmental contract. And the difference was like a $12,000 contract versus like a $16,000 contract. That's per year. We're not talking per month.
So you guys are like, I mean, you guys early on in your careers, I mean, it's like ramen noodles and buffets. Yeah.
Yeah. Guys lived with host families. I'd say over half the team in New England were living with host families.
I mean, you mentioned 12,000 and 16,000, and you're going, but the thing is that you were playing professional soccer, and you were doing what you were loving and getting paid for it, even if it was 12,000 or 16,000, and you were being billeted, in New England. But it's just to see where the sport has grown and where you guys are now, and I mean this in the sense of you and Greg and what you're trying to build. You get to share those lessons with these generations that are coming in behind. So all those things that you can sit there and go, well, back in my day, we went uphill in the snow both ways. That way they get to learn from all of this. And I'd like to think that when there's a message and a note that comes along from you, that it registers. And when it does register for you and Greg, that the message is getting through. That's why you're doing this kind of stuff in this next chapter of your life.
Yeah, that's the purpose of it for sure. And I think one of the things that we speak to a lot, kind of around what you're talking about is gratitude. And, gratitude just is, there's so many positive things that come out of focusing on gratitude and what you have to be thankful for. And I think that we don't do it enough. It just gets you focusing on the positive things that are out there and looking on the bright side of things, right? We've always got things that we can be grateful for. And I think a lot of players, especially at the end of the season, is when we kind of try and task them to look back and what are you grateful for, right? Parents that are giving you these opportunities and driving you here, there, and everywhere, and coaches that are taking time and doing extra stuff, and thankful for being healthy. And there's a bunch of different things that we try and encourage players to do, because we think there's a lot of benefits to being grateful for opportunities.
Do we not show enough gratitude, do you think? I mean, even as adults, do we not show enough gratitude?
Probably not. It's and that's just society. It's hustle and bustle, and sometimes there's not enough time to take a few moments and reflect. And I think that there's always like a wanting more type mentality out there, and that's there's part of that's great, right? Because it's pushing us, and you need that motivation, right? But there's also times to be thankful for what we do have, and taking that time. And like I said, it forces you to kind of slow down for a minute and also look at all the positive things that are around you and find the positive things, which is very valuable for our mental well-being and even physical well-being.
Do we slow down enough? I don't think we do.
Probably not. It's tough. It's tough to slow down. It is. I mean, even for me, and not, even when we're slowed down sometimes, right? I've got the habit of just, picking up the phone or the computer or the TV, right? And just like, that is my slow down time of like, okay, let me just chill, right? Versus like, oh, can I read a book or just sit there and think or something like that? Trying to get better at it.
Well, and I would think that, all right, I'll go ahead and show it off here. All right. So I mentioned calendars so I can keep my life squared away. One, and it can't be on a desk. Let's see. All right. So 2, that's got all my notes and everything for this week right there. That's 2.
Oh my gosh.
And then 3's here on the phone.
Yep.
And then 4's attached to the fridge. And if we walked up to the fridge, it would take the rest of the segment because I don't have a cord wireless enough to where you can sit there and watch it. But yeah, I mean, it's like having to deal with four different calendars because your brain's running so fast that you've got to figure out, okay, where do I have to be? What am I doing with this given moment? And I think that especially today with the younger athlete, because they're so locked into their devices and they're so locked into their computers and so locked into, running 400 miles an hour, I would think that, for the younger generations, it might be a little tougher to slow down, to understand what's going on, to, smell the roses, whatever cliche you want to use. I would think that, I know for us adults, it's bad enough because we're adulting, but for the young athlete that wants to try to do something, it might be just as tough, if not tougher, because of all of the devices and distractions.
No, totally. Absolutely. It's not easy. And that's why we're trying to teach them a little bit, because I'm not sure most of them are doing that or have done it before. And I try and do it with my own kids. Right. But, sometimes the last thing they want to hear is, be grateful you have an iPad, versus the time limit that's on it. Yeah.
Well, true. And one of the things that I don't know if you know this story, but down at South Georgia Tormenta, down in League One, the owners down there, husband and wife, been a part of the community forever, and the wife, who is just as active an owner as everyone else is down there when it comes to running things, what she mandated for the players when they would go and have lunch, they'd have their team lunch in a room or wherever, that you take your cell phone, you put it in this basket, and then you walk in and have lunch. Your phone is taken away from you during lunch, so that way you can have interpersonal communication with your teammates, learn more about them, and have actual conversations instead of being locked into a device when you're there at your team meal, because you're there as a team and you get to learn more about yourselves.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's a great concept. I think Atlanta United Academy was talking about maybe doing that on bus trips too. I don't think they've implemented it, but they've thought about it. Just trying to increase that communication. My wife is on me about that all the time, about stop being on your computer or on your phone while you're eating, like enjoy your food, actually taste your food. So I'm guilty of it as well. It's difficult.
Well, and like, because we're trying to do so much with the lives that we have, and I know it's like we're trying to multitask. We're trying to get things done here, and we're trying to help out here. We're trying to assist here. We're trying to be informed here, and all of it just comes into this big salad of trying to get things done. And a lot of times you're probably less productive because you have all this stuff on your mind instead of just focusing on one thing. Yeah, maybe.
I probably agree with that.
But the thing is, it's like we're caught in that the hamster wheel. And if you could tell mentees about the hamster wheel, since we've been on them for a couple of years, what's the biggest thing that you would tell them about not getting on it so much? How would you sit there and it's like, do as I say, not as I do? How much do you get to do that, basically, when it comes to mentoring? Do as I say, not as I did.
Yeah, a little bit. And, that's one of the reasons why we hope that what we say is a little bit more impactful, just because we've had the experience and gone through it and we've learned. It's not that we did everything perfect the first time we went through things in life, right? But we're trying to help the next generation not make the same mistakes or learn from our mistakes or what we could have done better. Yeah, it's challenging, of course, like anything, but that's why we think our voice is a little bit more important than, maybe a mental psychologist or somebody that hasn't been through what the kids have been through. It makes us a little unique, as you know.
Yeah. Yes, that is true. You are unique. I will grant you that one. Right now you're in the summer season, and Greg mentioned last week the relationship with Atlanta United, which I think is very, very cool, where you guys get to impact them from as early a stage as you possibly can. I thought that was really cool that Greg brought that to the table last week.
Yeah, totally. We're really excited about that. Truist has stepped up and really helped cement this relationship. So, really, really grateful about that. So we're going to be able to do more work with them, and hopefully it'll be the beginning. If we could, grow this thing, who knows? Work with other academies, bring on other players. You never know. We'll see.
Like the Wake Forest or the Crew or the Revs or other planets, things like that. Rhode Island FC, maybe.
Any and all of it, for sure.
As you continue to take over the world when it comes to mentoring. I didn't mean for the conversation to get as deep as it did this morning, but as always, thanks for putting up with the roadmap that literally has 6 words on it this morning. Literally, it's like you start talking. It's like, yep, I want to talk about that. I wrote it down. Literally, here's what I have on the sheet of paper that started out empty. Literally, it's rule changes, Messi, $16,000, and gratitude. That's what's on this piece of paper that evolved this morning with Michael Parkhurst at MF Parkhurst on the Twitter.
It's a good 6-word summary.
You ain't kidding, brother. So right there, Rhode Island FC. Go to Rhode Island FC, buy the gear, buy the stuff. They've got a home for year 1 as they continue to do stuff at the Landing and get ready for year 2. So, Cap, go play golf. Have a good weekend, my friend. We'll catch up with you soon.
Thank you. I won't be here next week for sure. Playing in the member. So go out there and crush some people.
So are you gonna like take pictures and post them to social media for us?
I could try and do that. I'm not very good at it, but I will try and do that. Yeah.
Take some Instagram stories and shoot some Instagram stories and maybe
I should
Twitter video and things like that, because and make sure that it's all your other partners, the member and all that kind of stuff. We need the breakfast ball shots, and we need all that other stuff.
I got to find out if breakfast ball applies to a tournament. I don't think it does.
Well, then that's what mulligans are for. One mulligan per 9, right?
That's how I play, John. But
right there with you, brother. All right, get out of here.
Have a good weekend.
Good. Michael Parkhurst putting up with all of my nonsense, as he always does. Since we are at the midpoint of the show, and I will say this, literally, Kat puts up with all of my nonsense, so does Greg. But it's great to catch up with our friends at Beyond Goals and go second level and sometimes third level on subjects. And it's very, very cool that, like I said, they put up with me on a weekly basis, our friends at Beyond Goals Mentoring. And so now that we are at the halfway point of the show, then it's time for me to lower volumes, find rock and roll cuts, and read a promo. And it might help if I actually put what I'm promoting back up in its full upright and locked position. All right, hang on just a second. I have to put the Eliminized billboard back up over my shoulder. Remember, Rhode Island FC things, you can pick them up at the store. They've restocked. Rotor-free, clean, fresh air. One place you need to go. It's Eliminized service. Deodorized enclosed spaces like houses, apartments, and condos. They've created a customized solution that eliminizes all organic odors, including those like pets, cigarettes, and food. Realtors and property managers use Eliminized service to eliminate bad odors to help them sell or rent their homes that much faster. It's a turnkey process. Makes it easy to work with, said realtors and property managers. Kind of the environment, offering a green way to get rid of odors without any kind of toxic residue whatsoever. Different than Febreze or other masking agents that you may have under the sink or above you in the cupboard, because when you reach either under the sink or above you in the cupboard, then you pull out that masking agent and you spray it in the air. There's a reason they call it a masking agent, because all it does is mask the odor. It does not attack the problem all the way down to the molecule like our friends at Eliminize do with their proven scientific formula. Pricing one of two ways, either by the cubic foot or parts per million to come up with a price that's affordable for you, offering results in 24 hours or less. If you have any questions, frequently asked or otherwise, one place you need to go is the website. And this is where I grab my pen. ELIMINIZE.com, Eliminize.com. But after the .com, do us a favor. Go /Atlanta so they know what part of the world that you are addressing them from. So it's ELIMINIZE.com /Atlanta, Eliminize.com /Atlanta. Eliminize service, rotor-free, clean, fresh air. Eliminize service, proud sponsors of everything SDH on a Friday. Insightful conversation with Michael Parkhurst. And I can't thank Parky and Greg enough for going down the roads that we go when it comes to the random conversations, because something will trigger in my mind, and then it will take us down a road. And like I said, literally, I wanted to discuss what was going on with Atlanta United and get his thoughts. Wanted to discuss what's going on with Rhode Island. I wanted to talk about salaries in Major League Soccer, and we go down the messy road and we find out that kids, which is what they were at the time, the first contract making $12,000 or $16,000, being billeted with families, and to where things are right now, the league really has grown. And I wanted to talk to him about Messi and rule changes and all that kind of stuff. And we go down a discussion about gratitude. So having those kinds of talks every single week with Cap and Greg, it's always fun to have. Please. Is today the day, Rich? Is it? Is it? Seriously? Wow, it is. Wow, Rich Ransom.
Is he the third man? He's the third man.
27 years ago today. 27 years ago today.
Is he the third man? He's the third man.
Wow. And brain completely and totally gave the story up before. Whose side is he on? 27 years ago, the beginning of the new world order of professional wrestling. Wow. Okay. You have these anniversaries. So 27 years ago, but morning forecard. So, like I said, it was good to get the thoughts of Michael Parkhurst there and the front office and what he thought about the deals and things like that. And I wanted to kind of get into the ideas of, okay, when this happens, what's it like to friends and players and things like that. And Franco Ibarra has posted to Instagram this morning. And so, like I said, after the press opportunities yesterday with Gonzalo Pineda and with Carlos Bocanegra, they are saying that it is part of a larger picture and that we will have a better idea at the end of the window as to how it's going to look. So we'll see. So we'll see what's up there. And it was. And Emilio's right. The Instagram post was a bit sad. When players, and so was Andrews, when there are players that you become attached to and you've seen them grow and evolve into the players that they are, it's always disappointing when you have players that you like move for whatever reason, whether it's antiquated roster rules or what have you. So, yeah, it was a bit sad. So, Franco Ibarra posted to Instagram this morning. It is that time where we go over the weekend, and let me get into viewing for today, viewing habits for today, and it's pretty busy. FS2, for those of you that are true sickos, it is Vancouver and Halifax at 10 o'clock in the Canadian Premier League. 2 to NA, it is Liga MX. The Apertura is underway. The Apertura in 2023 is underway. They started it early because of Leagues Cup. So Apertura is underway. 8 o'clock on 2 to NA, Puebla and Santos Laguna. Friday Night Football and MLS Next Pro and Season Pass. It is Toronto FC 2 and Crew 2 at 8. Austin FC 2 at Palmer Field hosting Houston Dynamo 2 at 9. Golasso Network has NWSL action, Orlando and OL Reign. U.S. Championship, Memphis 901, Stephen Glass. And Atlanta United West is hosting San Antonio FC. Big game. Memphis 901 is in third, kind of lurking right now in USL Championship, going up against the defending champs at AutoZone at 8:30. Paramount Plus, Argentine Primera. Doubleheader, Gimnasia La Plata Independiente at 6. Central Cordoba. And Newell's is at 8:30. And in the NWSL, it is a triple header. Orlando, OL Reign, Louisville, Kansas City, Houston, Chicago, 7, 8, and 8:30. VIX has your U19 men's championships coming up at noon. Greece and Spain, Iceland and Norway a little before 3 o'clock. And so that's your viewing habits for today. In Major League Soccer, this is where we are with this weekend, with the schedule. We've got juice boxes. We'll get into juice boxes. We'll get into all of the breakdowns of all the statistics and all the information that you need. Tomorrow, remember, it is also Gold Cup. It is Panama and the previous hosts of the World Championships. They're playing at AT&T Stadium at 7 o'clock. And also it is Mexico and Costa Rica a half hour after the completion of that match and after they've cleared the field. The United States, their semifinal is the last one, and that is on Sunday. Guatemala, Jamaica is at 5 at TQL in Cincinnati. The U.S. and Canada are at 7:30, so basically a half hour after the completion of the game on Sunday. So for the activity in Major League Soccer, some of it's on free TV, on the free side of Apple TV. Some of it's on Season Pass. We'll break all that stuff down for you. 7:30, it is Charlotte and Cincinnati at Bank of America Stadium. That's on the free side of Apple TV. If you choose the home audio option, you get to listen to Will and Jess on WFNZ as 6, 8, and 7 hosts 13, 2, and 5. And that one, once again, 7:39 kick. It's on the free side of Apple TV. And getting into the juice boxes on this one, Charlotte's a plus 140 at home. Your draw's a plus 244. And FC Cincinnati is a plus 187. Fun fact, Charlotte and Cincinnati both got 2-0 wins against the other last year. Charlotte won at home. Cincy won at home. Swiderski scored both of Charlotte's goals in March. Lucho Acosta scored one and assisted in the Cincinnati win. Charlotte's played 4 consecutive draws following a 1-1 result at NYC on Wednesday. Charlotte had only drawn 6 of their first 57 all-time matches in competitions prior to this run of 4 in a row. unbeaten run's the longest in club history. FC Cincinnati winless in consecutive matches for the first time all year. Well, they've drawn one and lost one. Even with 1 point in their last two, 44 points, fourth most through 20 games of a season in MLS history, two off the most, Galaxy in 98, LAFC in 2019. Mackenzie Gaines scored Charlotte's lone goal Wednesday from outside the box. The fourth goal Charlotte has scored from outside the box this year, 4 different players. Dating back to April 22, Charlotte's last 8 outside the box have been scored by 8 different players, and Lucho Acosta scored on both of assisted on both of FC Cincinnati's goals against New England on Saturday, the 11th time he's had multiple assists in a match in an MLS career. 5 players have had more multi-assist games in the MLS over the last 20 years. I'm thinking draw, and I know that I'm probably exciting a lot of people when I say that. But Cincy on the road, once again, you have you've got folks that are not available for you, and we'll get into the availability reports here. You've got folks that are away on international duty, and you've got to, you've got to make sure that you figure out what you got. And it is Miazga and Brandon Vasquez out on international duty. Junior Moreno has a leg issue. He is questionable. Charlotte Cisniega, your keeper, out with a back injury. And when you've got, when you've got a stud keeper that you've already got, you don't necessarily have to worry about. But Adilson Malanda is also out with a lower left leg injury. So Cincinnati doesn't have all their firepower. That's why I'm leaning draw in this one. I think it's probably going to be something in the line of 2-2. So if you're looking at juice boxes on totals, then probably something in that is what you would be staring at. Also on the board for 7:30, and there's a handful of 7:39 starts. Columbus hosting NYCFC is on the free side of Apple TV. That one's also at 7:30. And this one has 10, 6, and 5 going up against 5, 7, and 10. Crew minus 127 in the juice boxes. Your draws a plus 278. And NYC is a plus 324. And as I'm going through these, guys, let me know what you think about these matches as well. We're saving Atlanta and Montreal as the last game that we talk about. So Crew and NYC. In this one, Crew have won 6 of their last 7 matches against NYC, including the playoffs. The other one was a draw. Lone win against Columbus coming in 2017 for NYC. Since the 2017 playoffs, the home side has won 12 of the 15 meetings between Crew and NYC. Crew's unbeaten in a joint league-high 7 straight matches. They've won 5 with that draw back on Tuesday. League's top scores with 42 goals. Columbus has scored multiple goals in a match 13 times this season, 2 more than any other team. I don't think we need to go any further. Don't outthink this one. It's NYC. I mean, it's Columbus. Wow, that was a bad call on my part. Shows you where my brain is this morning. Also on the board, it is on season pass. Miami goes to D.C. to take on D.C. United once again. And this one is 7:39, 8, 9, and 5, hosting 5, 13, and 2. It's the last match that Tata Martino will not be in charge. He'll start. He's been at practice. He's worn the hat. He's been out in the South Florida sun. But he is going to take over on Monday. This is the last match that he will not be in charge on the touchline. 8, 9, and 5, hosting 5, 13, and 2. DC United's won 4 of their 6, including a 2-1 victory in Fort Lauderdale back on June 3rd. They're 4-1-1 all-time against Inter Miami. All but one of the 6 all-time meetings, I mean, the DC win in May of 2021 may have been decided by a goal or drawn. DC had 8 shots in their 1-0 win over Dallas. Club's 4th win while having 10 or fewer shots this season, with only Nashville having more such wins in MLS play in 2023. Inter Miami is winless in 9 league games, losing 7, the longest winless run in club history. Pedro Santos won all 6 tackles he attempted in DC's win on Tuesday, as only Houston's Franco Escobar has attempted more in a match with a 100% success rate. Santos is the first DC player to attempt 6 or more tackles in a match and win all of them since Junior Moreno. Miami has allowed at least one goal in 18 straight MLS matches, the longest streak by any team this season. Joseph's equalizer, his 104th, equals Dwayne De Rosario for 9th all-time. Only the second time that Joseph has scored a result-changing goal in the 90th minute or later in a regular season match. The other was the San Jose game at 90+5 back in 2018. Don't outthink this one either. I'm going with DC. Also at 7:39, it is New York and New England. This one's on season pass at Red Bull Arena. 5, 7, and 8 hosting 10, 3, and 7 juice boxes. Red Bulls are a -122 at home. Draws a +263. Revs are a +334. Shooter and his fans might be outnumbering what you would see at Red Bull Arena. That's just me. Red Bulls won both matches against New England during the 22 season after winning just 2 of the 10 between the teams from 18 to 21. They lost 6 of those. New York has won 3 or more in a row against New England in all competitions once in the last 20 years. 4 straight in 16-17. Red Bulls suffered their 7th defeat of the season Saturday, losing 2-1 at Columbus. Red Bulls have not lost consecutive matches this season and has just one 2-match losing run in the regular season since the start of 22, losing to NYCFC and Columbus in September and October. The Revs have the joint longest active unbeaten run in Major League Soccer, 7 straight, with a 2-2 draw with Cincinnati Saturday. New England has suffered just 3 defeats all year, equaling their fewest through 20 games in a season in club history, and that's why I think this one's going to be a draw too. Take that 263. Red Bulls when it comes to availability, and New England when it comes to availability. Revs, once again, remember, no Dylan Barrero. Nacho Heel is out with a right leg injury. Henry Kessler out with a hamstring. Maciel out with an Achilles. Tommy McNamara out with a left leg injury. Christian McCoon out with a right leg injury. DeJuan Jones out with international duty. That's a lot of folks. Out for Red Bull, Sergio Goma with a hamstring. Lewis Morgan with a hip. Steven Serwata with a knee. Corey Burke, John Tolkien for international duty. Questionable Dante Von Zier and Dylan Nealis. So both teams have a lot out. Not expecting this one. Not expecting a whole lot out of this one myself, so I'm thinking draw. So once again, you take that draw to +262. Also at 7:39. Toronto hosting all caps SC. It's on season pass. The other 7:39 kick is Atlanta and CF Montreal. Toronto and St. Louis at 7:30. Availabilities. St. Louis, no Nielsen, no Klaus, no Lewin. Miguel Perez is questionable. For Toronto, here you go. Bradley, Dio, Gutierrez, Hedges, Rosted, Vasquez, all with lower body injuries. I feel like this was filled out by the Maple Leafs communication staff. International duty, Sean Johnson, Jonathan Osorio, Richie Larea, Tomas Romero. Insigne is questionable, and Bernadeschi headed, folks, and got a red card. So with all of that, honestly, I mean, I'm not thinking too hard on this one. St. Louis, all caps, is a +142. 143, they're a road favorite. Toronto's a +172. Your draw's a +259. I'm not anticipating this game is going to set the world on fire, but I'm not even going to look at things and go, well, you know, hey, I'm going to give Toronto a shot. But I'm not going to give Toronto a shot just because of all the absences and all the stuff. So I'm going to go with all caps. We held off the 7:39 kick because of this guy who's coming in. Timing was impeccable as always. So Jason's dropping by. And we're going to talk about Atlanta United and CF Montreal. Welcome, sir.
What's up?
It's been a busy morning. We had Michael Parkhurst on this morning, catching up with our friends at Beyond Goals. And a lot of folks in the Twitch pitch have been talking about the events of the last couple of days. I know that you were up at the Children's Healthcare of Atlanta training ground to hear Gonzalo Pineda and Carlos Bocanegra speak yesterday. What were some of your takeaways?
Yeah, look, you don't want to lose players who are good players. And I think Andrew Gutman and Franco Ibarra are both good players. But when you get into the MLS machinations of making a team better, and I think Carlos said it yesterday very clearly, it's not the first time, the way the league's structured, the way a salary cap is structured, the way a roster is structured in this league, it's not the Premier League. It's not other leagues in the world where you can keep good players and still try to get better by adding other good players. It's not feasible in MLS for multiple reasons. You run out of roster spots, number one. It's not Chelsea where you can sign, 5 deep in every position, which can be good or bad, but you can't do that. 2, if you're going to add good players, and Tristan Muyumba hopefully will be a good player in this midfield, an area that all I've heard all season and argued about is that that's an area that needs to be upgraded. Okay. You go out and you bring in Muyumba, and hopefully he'll be able to join sooner rather than later. Because of the way the league is structured, you can't just add. You can't. It's literally impossible, because if you can, then that means you either were keeping roster spots open or were not spending to the max of the cap. It's just math. Like, I'm sorry. Like, it's just math. And when you look to make the team better in these situations where you have limited space and you have limited spend, when you look to get better, you have to move guys out, but you look to positions where you have depth. Left back, full back in general, a position you have depth, and a player who is of value in the league, and Andrew Gutman, who I think will serve Colorado well. And I think here, 2 things, with what you have cover on the left side with Caleb Wiley, with Ronald Hernandez, who can play on either side, with Aiden McFadden, who can play on either side, you've got the depth you need in that position. And 2, with what we've seen in the last match, playing wing backs as opposed to full backs, you've got even more depth because you have even more options. With a wing back, you can play a winger and that kind of a role like we saw Justin Merrim do in 2019. So that's one. When it comes to Gutman, that's a player of value, and I think you got good value for him in the trade. And it's at a position where you can afford to lose somebody to get better elsewhere. And then in the midfield, when you're going to add another midfielder, which again, I will say it again, and it's a position that everybody has talked about all year long, and I didn't think it was the biggest priority, but it's a position that everybody has talked about wanting to improve. Okay, so you improve it. And then when you start to figure out who has to go to make room and to make space, it's easy to say on the outside, we'll just move the guy who's not playing. You can't buy a contract out because you bought Joseph Martinez's contract out in a way to help him get to Miami where he wanted to go. You did the buyout then. You didn't trade him. You didn't hold on to him. You did the buyout so he could choose where he wanted to go there on a cap-friendly deal. He went there. Okay. So you can't do that. You can't just cut somebody. It's not the way the league's structured. So you have to find somebody of value, and you're looking to get a return because then you can get even better. So, look, it sucks. In a perfect world, that's not even a perfect world, honestly, because I don't think Chelsea's a perfect world in being able to just go and spend and add a player and add a player and add a player and add a player. Because then you have guys who aren't playing, and then you have situations where you have too many guys to even do normal training sessions. And you have guys who are unhappy because they're not playing. That factors in too. So look, it sucks. I wish it was easier to upgrade your team. But in MLS, and I think there are more benefits to it than these issues, which suck. There's more benefits to having a cap and roster space and those things because you have a more competitive league than a league where somebody can just go and spend their way out of trouble. So look, it's not a fun situation when you lose 2 players who I think are good players in this league, 2 players who played hard for the club, 2 players who were well-liked in the locker room. But if your goal is to win, and that's what everyone demands, and that's what they should demand, well, when you try to upgrade, that means you can't just purely upgrade. You have to move some things out to bring in pieces to the team. And that's the nature of it. And we've been down this road before. This is not new. So I think the overreaction to it is what it is. It's an overreaction to it. You have to see how the whole window shakes out. And I was having this conversation with somebody yesterday offline. Compared to the Atlanta Hawks right now, the Atlanta Hawks in a cap league, you can actually understand the cap in the NBA, so that's a bonus. Mm-hmm. Even if it is very, very complicated, you can understand it, and it's public and everything's out there, which I wish MLS was. But in the NBA, it's the same thing. You got to move guys out to get better because you run up against the limit of your spend and you run up against the limit of your roster. Hawks send John Collins away. That trade doesn't look good by itself, does it? Because you're sending a good player away and you're not getting anything back. But what does that do? It sets you up for other things. And you can right or wrong on the other things you do. That's not the point of this. You have to make moves that might not look great by themselves. But in a cap league, one move has to trigger another. And sometimes it's the outgoing first before the incoming. Sometimes you hear about the incoming and then you see the outgoing later. And that's just the nature of it. And that's where you are right now. So at the moment, again, I think with the left back situation, you're covered. With central midfield, you were going to miss Ibarra this weekend anyway. We were going to have that conversation about who plays. Is it Osechi? Is it Sosa? Is it Alonso? Well, now you're going to have that conversation until Muyumba is in the mix. And then where does he fit in and who does he play with is going to be the question. And I think something that Gonzalo Pineda will figure out once he gets him into training and gets to see the chemistry and the fit. Sorry, that was a very long answer to that, but I don't know how else to explain it. Like, I truly don't. Like, it's complicated. It's a lot, but you can't just stomp your feet and say, I want it now, because in this league, if you want something, you got to give something up, period. And we know that. So that's where it is.
Yeah, you can't be Veruca Salt in this situation and try to work your way forward. No. Let's go backward before we go forward. Let's go. First time that I've had the chance to catch up with you since the match against Philly. Now that you've had a little while to let that one just kind of ruminate a little bit and digest, your thoughts about the win against Philly.
Good win, good performance, and I think what was the best about it was the defensive solidity. And I wasn't sure going in if adding the half center back, half fullback, and Ronald Hernandez would make it work. And it did help. It absolutely helped. Ronald Hernandez is a really good 1v1 defender. I think he's going to play an important role down the stretch, whether it's playing as a fullback, whether it's playing as a third center back. You're also going to get Miles Robinson back, so you have the ability to play three center backs in Abram, Parata, and Robinson when Miles comes back into the group. So you're going to have a lot of flexibility with how you shape things out. But I thought it was really good. The scrappiness is something that's hard to quantify. I think blocks is one way you can do that, and they had more blocks in this one than they've had all season. It was a really good performance. You get the early goal, which is key against against a Red Bulls team. Teams that don't want the ball, the earlier you can score on them, the more they're uncomfortable. And I didn't think Philly looked very good at all. I think Jim Curtin maybe overthought it a little bit with his half central midfielder, half wing back in Leon Flock. Like, the graphic had it as a 5-3-2. They've played in that shape this season. It was kind of half and half, and I don't know why, but it was also for a very short period of time, because after the goal, it looked more like the 4-4-2 diamond, and I thought it played more like the 4-4-2 diamond. And Atlanta with that box midfield, the other element of it that was so impressive to me was having four in the midfield, which we saw in the game against NYC. It's what led them back. Firmino playing as that kind of additional 10, the mix player where you're kind of a forward, kind of a 10, kind of an 8, kind of a winger. Chol played that in the first half. Didn't have a good second half. Wolf replaces him. I thought Chol understood what the role needed to be. It didn't fully click with him and his teammates. I thought there were a couple passes that were late to him, like a step behind him. Then he was late to make a run on one really good ball from Almada through the middle. It was close, but I thought his movement opened up a lot of space. It opened up a lot of space for Lennon. It created a lot of opportunities there. So I liked it, and I think the more that you see them play in that way, the more that can come from it. But I like what you saw, and I think you'll see that kind of a shape, which it's just like a little shift in terms of the lines. I think you'll see that again this weekend against Montreal.
When you talk about Montreal and Hernan Losada, what has study hall been like for you getting ready for this matchup there at Stade Saputo?
They're missing a lot of key pieces. Missing Matthew Chouanier is a big loss for them. He's a player that you might not know all that well. He's an all-star, and I'm really happy to see him get picked. He was a guy who played as a wing-back when Georgi Mihailovic was there. He's not a wing-back, but he actually did pretty well at that position. I think he's a central midfielder. He's an 8/10. Really good player. And he's out. Kyoto's out. Lapalainen's out. Broguillard, Herrera away on Gold Cup duty. That's 5 key players, maybe 5 starters. So it's a little difficult. But this is a Montreal team at home that's been very good. And Losada's style of play is disruptive. It's different than Philly and Red Bulls because he wants the ball. But it's disruptive with their press. They're very good at it. And they're going to play in a 3-5-2, 5-3-2 kind of setup. It's not the 4-man midfield. It's more of a 3 with 2 up top. Toye and Ibrahim were the 2 starters in the last game against NYC, with Bryce Duke, who's another really good fit for them, playing as that 10. I think when they get Duke and Chouanier playing together on a regular basis, they're going to be really good in that midfield. Wanyama is still one of the better central midfielders in this league in a holding role. I like their center backs, Waterman, Camacho, Corbo. I think they're all good. They suit the system. Sirois, good young goalkeeper. Wing back is where I think Atlanta United can win some battles. I like Brooks Lennon and Caleb Wiley against their wing backs. Ariel Lassiter, who's an attacker, has played wing back for them. Defensively, it's going to be a liability. Sean Rea, better defensively, but yeah, you can get at those 2 guys with your attacking wingbacks in Lennon and Wiley, and I think that's where the game will turn. If Lennon and Wiley have big days, Atlanta United should win this game. If Montreal's able to deny that and create some opportunities with their pressure, Montreal can win this game. So I think it's going to be a really fun one. I think it's going to be a high-energy game. I think for neutrals, they'll really enjoy it. I think for fans, you might be a little stressed out because it's going to be a very tight game. But I think wing back is where the game's decided. I think Lennon and Wiley are the 2 who can win it for Atlanta.
Can we talk the Poku trade really quickly?
Yeah, he might be in the mix. Losada spoke to the media yesterday and didn't really know if he's going to be there or not. I think Opoku is in Montreal now, but one thing that Losada mentioned, and I don't know the situation here in terms of players going from the U.S. to Canada and work visas and those situations, I don't know if Opoku can play this weekend. I don't know if he'll have the necessary paperwork to be an employee in Canada. I'm not sure on that. I don't know what the process is. I don't know how different it is. I'm assuming it doesn't just transfer from the U.S. So I don't know that part of it. But if he got there yesterday, he'd have a walkthrough training session today, and I don't think you'd expect him to start. If he's available off the bench, he's a good addition for them. Obviously, they paid a lot for him, which I feel like is a big risk. But he's an upgrade. Sunusi Ibrahim, still young, but he hasn't really broken through yet for them at 20 years old yet. Mason Toye has had injury issues. I think he's talented, but we haven't seen consistency from Toye. They need a real number 9. A 4 has 3 goals this season. I mean, that's 3 guys in Toye, Ibrahim, and a 4 who are all like potential guys, and none of them have been the guy. And Opoku last year was the guy. He was really good. This year, not at the same level. Can he go there and reunite with Bryce Duke? Remember, they both came to LAFC together. Can those two form a connection? Can Chouanier start to find it? And then do you get a situation where Montreal changes a little bit from the 3-4-1-2 to more of the 3-4-2-1 with Duke and Chouanier behind Opoku? I like that fit for them, and I think it could be a really good move. And honestly, for Atlanta United's sake, and in this one anyway, I think it's a good thing that he probably won't factor in very much, if at all.
Get it done now instead of when he gets integrated.
Hey, they're going to come down to the bends later this year, and they'll be better at that point. But then you bring up the question, and we saw it with Losada's team at DC, and I think we see it with managers who play in the style. Bielsa had it at Leeds. Teams run out of gas. And when you play that hard-charging pressing style and you play under intensity for a long period of time, it's really tough to stay fully charged. And Montreal really hasn't played a whole lot of guys. So how Losada manages that will be key in the second half of the season. I think he's punched above his weight. I think their record is better than their talent. And that's the sign of a manager who is a good coach. Now, can he be a good manager in dealing with these kinds of things? Opoku's going to give him another weapon. Getting guys back healthy will give him more weapons. These are really good things. But right now, Montreal's a little vulnerable. And I think Atlanta has to take advantage. They have to attack those wingbacks, and they have to open things up tomorrow.
2 more questions, and,
Yep.
and thanks for dropping by because I know that you got to kind of get ready to hit the road too. Other matches that you're looking at this weekend, since we're in the whip around, what other matches are you looking at this weekend in Major League Soccer?
Been so focused on everything with this. Let's take a look and see what jumps out to me. Charlotte hosting Cincinnati. I mean, Charlotte had 3 points in the bag on Wednesday and couldn't see it out. They're missing a couple of things right now, and playing on short rest, hosting Cincinnati, and disappointment added into the short rest. Road team in that one looks pretty good. DC and Miami. Miami, I mean, you have to keep looking at them to see what they're going to do over this stretch right now where they're missing guys to the Gold Cup, but they've got to get something out of these games to have any shot of getting to the playoffs when they get all the big guns in. It sounds like Jordi Alba is going to be the next one on a TAM deal. You got to get some points here. I don't know if they're capable of pulling that off. Chicago and Nashville, interesting. Houston and Kansas City might be a sneaky good game out west. RSL and Orlando, it's a really good test for Orlando, who has been really good as of late on the road in Utah. That's a long trip for them. Curious to see how they look. And LA Galaxy and Philadelphia. I mean, Philadelphia has been better than LAFC in terms of dealing with CONCACAF Champions League and all that, but they didn't look great on Sunday. They didn't honestly look great when they beat Miami at home. It was a lopsided scoreline, but they didn't look great in that. And now they go to face an LA Galaxy team that is on shorter rest by a couple of days, but you talk about a team with maybe some momentum after playing in front of 80,000 and getting that kind of a win. I like the Galaxy in that one. I actually do.
All right. One last question. MLS Next Pro. The Twos had the week off, and they, for the reward of their off week, they get Crown Legacy at Matthews this weekend.
Yeah, but they're rested going into it. And I know the guys, a lot of them got away for a few days, which is good. They've had a lot of work since returning, I think, late last week or over the weekend. So I like that they had their break. I like that they ended before the break on a big win. And you've got somebody in Nick Firmino who is just in incredible form. And can he pick up where he left off? Getting Johnny Viall back and healthier now, can he start potentially? Adds another wrinkle to that. But Crown Legacy is a fascinating team to me when you look at Next Pro and how teams are built. They're a little older. They've got some guys who, honestly, I think would help the first team right now. I think Charlotte needs a left back in the worst way. They're playing right backs on the left side, which can work. But then you're also playing Derek Jones as a center back. Maybe you need him in the midfield right now. Crown Legacy's got players who are a little bit older and could step up and help. And I'm a little surprised we haven't seen that. So compare the teams, and Crown Legacy has more experience. I think they've really invested in that team almost to be more of a link to the first team than an Atlanta United 2 team is, where it's more of a extension of the academy, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, I think sometimes you can build a reserve team to be like a true reserve team, but then use them that way and use those guys in the first team and bring them through. And I think Charlotte needs to do that. I don't think they're going to this week, so it shouldn't affect Atlanta United 2's match with them. It's a good team, and they play a really interesting tactical setup. It's very fluid. Guys are not like rigidly in positions. It's going to be a fascinating one Sunday night. I'm really looking forward to it.
Broadcast plans across the board. Sir, hit the promo for me.
So, Saturday night, 7 o'clock, Five Stripes Countdown on 92.9 The Game and the Odyssey app. Kickoff 7:39. And then we will have a normal full-time report from Stade Saputo, so close to an hour after the final whistle. We're going to try to figure out the technology. Stade Saputo is not the biggest of stadiums, but we're going to try to get at least some of Gonzalo Pineda's press conference. I know that's something we haven't really been able to do on the road. We're going to try to make that happen for you guys this time so you can hear some of his comments after the game. And then we'll be heading back. And Sunday here on the SDH Network, we will have Atlanta United 2 and Crown Legacy on the road. It's going to be a busy weekend.
No doubt about it. Always is this time of year. Jason, thanks a lot, and we'll catch up with you soon, my friend.
Adios.
There's Jason. And I've got to work on this. Next time he comes on, I've got to see if he does the long slide. I've got to see if he can do the longshore slide to come into the segment, even though I know it's like double boxes and things. I think that will be that's what I got to work on. For those of you that didn't have the chance to see it, as a part of Countdown to Kickoff, it is now Chris Collinsworth ain't got nothing on the Hoff and on Jason. Jason is now sliding into frame to be right there with Joe. So we got to work on that. And that's got to be a constant now. Now that you've done it once, you've got to do it each and every time for Countdown to Kickoff. So watch that on social media platforms as well for Atlanta United. And it's good to see the slide working, the slide with Jason and the Hoff. So that's where we are. All right. Jason kind of got into some of the other games. We got through all of the 7:30s. Chicago Fire and Nashville with juice boxes on this one. Chicago Fire is a plus 135 at home at the Spaceship in downtown Chicago, Soldier Field. Your draws a plus 238. Nashville's a plus 197. Also at 8:39, Houston and Sporting. Jason mentioned that one as one to keep an eye on. Houston is a plus 112 at Shell Energy. Your draws a plus 263. Sporting is a plus 221. Also at 8:30, Minnesota United hosting Austin FC. Minnesota United adding Ismail Tajuri-Shradi this week to Timu Pukki and getting Bebe Reynoso back. So they're getting their pieces in. Minnesota United's minus 119. Your draw and Austin are both at a plus 289. 9:30, Rapids and FC Dallas out at Dick's Sporting Goods Park in Commerce City, Colorado with the Rabid Prairie Dogs. The Rapids are a plus 110. Your draw is a plus 229. And FCD is a plus 257. Jason also mentioned RSL. We talked with Nico Moreno on yesterday as well. And you can catch that on the network about the moves that RSL's been making and adding a couple of players, spending under $10 million. RSL kind of quietly going about things in the West. Hosting Orlando should be an interesting match in at the Riot. RSL's a minus 106. Your draw is a plus 272. And Orlando City is a plus 266. And then after that, the purple team comes to Atlanta next weekend. But there's always the action in the midweek. So we're going to have a midweek whip around next week as well. 10:30s, LAFC hosting San Jose. LAFC, big favorite, minus 227. I think with the conversation we were having with Jason, it would mean that Jason might be leaning draw because of what happened in the midweek. Plus 393 is your draw. San Jose to win is a plus 525. Galaxy in Philadelphia. Galaxy, get this. The Galaxy and the Union are both at plus 154. So your win on both sides is the same number. I cannot remember the last time that I've seen something like that. And this is through an 18 organization composite rating. Through 18 juice box purveyors, it's added up to where LAG and the Union are the same number. Plus 154. Your draws a plus 265. Vancouver and Seattle is your last one. Vancouver's a plus 119. Draws a plus 245. And Seattle is a plus 220 before the midweek. And Atlanta heading to Boston. All right, so getting into the schedules and where you can see things. Chicago and Nashville is on season pass. Houston and Sporting is on the free side of Apple TV. Season pass, Minnesota and Austin. Season pass, Colorado and Dallas. Free side of Apple TV, Salt Lake, Orlando, LA, Philadelphia, LAFC, San Jose. All those are on the free side of Apple TV. Season pass gives you Vancouver and Seattle. So that's your rundown of all of the games and everything in the weekend whip around. Patent pending, trademark coming sooner, hopefully, rather than later. Getting into the standings once again in MLS to get you into the weekend in the Western Conference. All caps is 3 points clear of Seattle with a match in hand. Seattle's at 32 points. LAFC has a match in hand, and it is also with the same number of wins. Seattle is one higher in goal difference, +7 to +6. RSL, we mentioned them sneaky, unbeaten in their last 5. They're at 30 points in 4th. FCD, they've lost 3 of 5. They're at 29 points. San Jose's at 28. Dynamo's at 27. The 8 and 9 currently would be Austin and Vancouver. Sporting is at 24 points. Same number of wins as Minnesota United. More goals scored. Goal difference is the same at -4. But Minnesota also has 3 matches in hand to Sporting Kansas City. Portland, they have only one. They're on a 4-match winless streak. The match with Colorado in the midweek was abandoned. No word on the makeup date yet to either finish that one with the second half or not. So we'll figure that one out. So Portland's at 22 points. LAG with the win is at 19. They're unbeaten in their last 5, but only one of those was the win, and that was El Tráfico. Colorado last in the West at 14 points through 20 matches. They've only won 2 this year. They're at 2, 8, and 10. In the East, which is markedly tougher than the West. FC Cincinnati, once again, we talked about them at 44 points and how they are a top 4 output through 20 matches in league history. Nashville's at 38. Revs at 37. Crew at 35. Philadelphia 34. Orlando 34. Atlanta 32. DC's at 29. CF Montreal is at 26. DC and CF Montreal are your 8-9. Charlotte is 10 at 25 points. They've drawn 4 in a row. NYC, unbeaten in their last 5, but only one of those is a win. Red Bulls is 12th at 23. Fire's at 23. Identical record with Red Bulls. Red Bulls have better goal difference, -2 to -5. Toronto's at 19 points. They've lost 4 in a row. Inter Miami, 5, 2, and 13. They are at 17 points. They have drawn their last 2. So that gets you through your standings and lets you know where things lay out when it comes to all of the activity in Major League Soccer. Gossip, rumor, and innuendo. And anything else that we have going on this morning when it comes to transfers. I hit the wrong button. It took me a second. Manchester United lining up a £50 million move for Atalanta striker Rasmus Højlund. That's from the Telegraph. United continue to do due diligence on keepers, including Feyenoord's Justin Bilo and Spaniard David Raya of Brentford, in case they can't agree on a fee with Inter for Andre Onana. Eric Ten Hag is looking to offload Alex Telles, Eric Bailly, Brandon Williams, Harry Maguire, and Scott McTominay to balance the books. That comes from our friends at the Mirror. West Ham interested in a deal to sign McTominay, with Moyes also tracking Everton midfielder Amadou Onana. That's from our friends at The Guardian. Chelsea's going to have to give up more than 100. Brighton's looking at £100 million if they want to sign Moises Caicedo this summer. They're within, I think, $25 million. I think they've been talks at 75 or 80, but Chelsea has been told by Brighton, and Brighton has stuck to this, that they want 100. Newcastle preparing a surprise move for Juve center back Leonardo Bonucci to add experience to the Champions League campaign. Jurrien Timber's undergoing a medical at Arsenal on Friday with the Gunners, confident that they can complete the £38.5 million deal for the fullback. That comes from our friends at the Evening Standard. Spurs midfielder Ivan Perisic has told Ange Postecoglou he intends to terminate his deal with the Croat keen to join Hajduk Split. That's from Gianluca Di Marzio. Atletico Madrid have approached Spurs over Pierre-Emile Højbjerg, who's been linked to a move to Bayern. That's the four-letter paper. Keep the information at your own peril. Southampton think they're going to get the $50 million for Romeo Lavia. Chelsea, Liverpool, and Arsenal all chasing. $50 million for a 19-year-old for a team that got relegated. Crystal Palace hopes of re-signing Zaha have been dashed. They were looking at £200 million a week. It would be a record deal for the club. Lazio, Fenerbahce, Al Nassr chasing after Wilfried Zaha. Fulham close to agreeing to a new deal with Willian after he officially became a free agent at the end of last week. Pulisic is on the cusp of a £20 million switch to AC Milan. Apparently those conversations between Chelsea and AC Milan are happening today, and they're face-to-face talks too, so we'll keep an eye on that. Leicester willing to sell Harvey Barnes for £40 million to help fund the squad rebuild, amid interest from Premier League clubs like Newcastle, Villa, West Ham. Arsenal's William Saliba has signed a new contract that'll keep him at the Emirates until 2027. West Ham weighing up a move for Juve's Dennis Zakaria. The Hammers could initially take the 26-year-old Swiss international on loan with an option to buy for £15.4 million. That comes pounds. That comes from our friends at The Guardian. West Ham also interested in Joao Palhinha and James Ward-Prowse. You're going to have to pay a pretty penny for James Ward-Prowse, I'll tell you that right now. Wolves desperate to keep center back Max Kilman after turning down a £30 million bid from Napoli. So we'll keep an eye on all of those moves going into the English papers and seeing how things are. Also going into Transfer Center from our friends at Sky. PSG believe that Mbappe has agreed to join Real on a free next summer. Mbappe was sent a letter. This is a developing story. It happened within the last 10 minutes. Mbappe sent a letter by PSG on Monday making it clear he would be sold this summer unless he agrees to extend his contract before the end of the month. If he doesn't extend, PSG will sell him as quickly as possible to the highest bidder, and they don't care where he goes. This is wording from Sky. There will be no emotion on any potential transfer. It would be purely transactional. In the past, it's been thought PSG would prefer not to do business with Real Madrid, but if Mbappe does not extend his contract, they'll sell him to anyone who can afford him. The asking price is likely to be £150 million. In Monday's letter, PSG told Mbappe that the decision not to extend his contract has caused the club enormous harm. PSG urged him to extend his contract, quote, to help the club that has helped you and your family, end quote. But PSG believe that Mbappe's already agreed to join Real on a free. Keep an eye on that. Pochettino has had his first press conference at Chelsea. Pochettino says that Lukaku is expected to report for preseason training on July 12 or 13. Quote, with all the players when they arrive, the first thing they do is come and see me and say hello. If he's still a Chelsea player, he will come and see me and say hello, end quote. Mikel Arteta admitted that they wanted to extend William Saliba's contract for a very long time. Mikel Arteta, quote, he proved last season just how good and how important he is to our squad. The ability he has at his young age of just 22 is exciting. And there is, of course, so much more room for development with any player at this stage of their career. Looking forward to continuing to work with William in the years to come. Saliba had 1 year left on his previous deal, but now he's committed to the long-term future to the Gunners. 33 appearances in all comps last year with 3 goals. Ricardo Pepi official. Officially official at PSV. 5-year deal. Could keep Pepe in Eindhoven until the 26 World Cup. Familiar with the league after scoring 12 times for Groningen, which was relegated while on loan from Augsburg. Pepe moved to the Bundesliga 18 months ago after his time with FC Dallas. Neeskens Cabano has left Fulham following the expiry of his contract. 17 appearances in the Premier League last year. 7-year stay at Craven Cottage. Dave, otherwise known as Cesar Azpilicueta, was asked why he was joining Atletico Madrid. Wanted to experience the values of this club, what moves the fans from the inside, not as a visitor. Thought it was the best form, felt he could bring a lot to the club. Really felt like being here and helping. I think we can achieve great things. So, Arda Güler has been presented, officially unveiled as a Real Madrid player after the signing yesterday. So that will be interesting as well going forward, seeing how that is. Good piece of business, a lot of folks are saying, by Real Madrid. Paper talk, once again, avoiding the 3 and the 4-letter papers as we always do. Manchester United finding it difficult to sell Harry Maguire because of a clause in his contract, according to The Guardian, which earned him a significant wage rise for securing a Champions League berth. Chelsea's refusing to meet that £100 million demand for Moises Caicedo. Manchester United have come under fire for cracking down on ticket tours while allowing seats at Old Trafford to be sold on Viagogo, a website accused of allowing professional ticket traders to exploit fans. So you got that. And apparently the letter that PSG sent to Kylian Mbappe was 3 pages long. They gave him a deadline of the end of the month. 24 days. Mbappe watch, 24 days. 24 days for Mbappe and his future at PSG to be determined. To be determined. Leeds defender Robin Koch has joined Eintracht Frankfurt on a loan for 23-24. Once again, avoiding the 3 and the 4-letter paper, as we always do. Manchester United aiming to sign 2 goalkeepers this summer. Expected Dean Henderson will join Nottingham Forest on a permanent deal for a fee of around £30 million. Evening Standard saying that the games at the Women's World Cup could run past 100 minutes, with FIFA continuing their the crackdown on time wasting. Remember what happened in the World Championship last time where we had all of those added minutes. Apparently, anticipate the same thing. All those added minutes when it comes to time wasting and subs, it's going to continue. Daily Mirror, former Liverpool goalkeeper Adam Bogdan is backing Dominik Szoboszlai to have a great career. Says he was born to be at a big club. We mentioned Eden Hazard. Might be, well, let's put it this way. Jordi Alba is looking like the third, but we talked about it yesterday. Iniesta and Eden Hazard, names 4 and 5 in the match race to become a part of everything at Inter Messi FC. So we will see. Daily Mirror is still hanging on to the idea of Eden Hazard going to Inter Miami. Manchester United's lack of incoming transfer business means boss Erik ten Hag set to promote youngsters Charlie Savage, Maxi Oyedele, and Isaac Hansen Aaron to senior squad training. And ITV apparently is going to shake up their EFL show. So we'll keep an eye on all of that stuff. We mentioned how busy the weekend is going to be when it comes to all of the viewing habits. We might get into requested reading before you go. But stuff on the tube on Saturday outside of Major League Soccer. U21 Men's Championship at noon. FS1's got the quarterfinals, by the way, the Gold Cup. Gold TV has a Uruguayan Primera. Telemundo has Liga MX. While 2DN is showing the quarterfinals of the Gold Cup. Universo has Chivas and Atlético San Luis. Univision has the quarterfinals as well, all the games on Season Pass. The one game on MLS Next Pro is at 5 o'clock on Saturday. Whitecaps, that's Swangard hosting the hottest team in the West, Colorado Rapids 2. Golazo Network has the Brasileiro, and the NWSL. ESPN Plus has a lot of stuff in the USL Championship. Will Telemundo have the Women's World Cup? Hang on just a second. Let me see who. It might be Telemundo, it might be TUDN. So hang on. I know it's kind of like one and the same. Let's see what we got here. Interesting. Okay, so it is not listed anywhere, which is odd. Going to that bastion of journalistic integrity, Wikipedia, they did not have the full list, which I found interesting. So we'll see. Hang on. Let's see. Modiflow asking all the questions that folks need to know. Media rights overview. Okay. Interesting. Media rights licensee currently for the World Cup. Oh, I have to look at maybe in the right part of the world. Oceania. To actually look in the actual section. That's weird. Europe is not listed. Asia. Okay, Fox, Telemundo, and Football de Primera is in the U.S. Yeah, so it's Telemundo. It is Telemundo. Fox Sports, Telemundo, and Football de Primera has the radio. So, yeah, Fox and Telemundo. It's like clicking on like 9 different things and go to the FIFA thing and you want to do things in alphabetical order. No, they do it by territory and they do it by confederation. So I had to go to the right confederation to come up with the answer. So Fox Sports, Telemundo, that's the answer. So we have that. Also on the board, once again, a lot of games, USL Championship on Saturday. We mentioned the game in Memphis as a big one. You've got the last game for Neil Collins against Oakland Roots before he goes to Barnsley in League One. Tampa Bay hosting Oakland Roots at 7:30. League One, a very, very busy Saturday as it always is. Fox Soccer Plus has CPL. Paramount Plus has Argentine Premier, Brazilian Brasileiro, NWSL. Peacock has Guadalajara and Necaxa. And VIX Plus has a doubleheader on Saturday. Don't forget, if there's any part of the planet that you're on, and you're looking for stuff, go to fanatisfntz.co/soccer down here, and it helps out Fanatis with the subscription, helps out the show, and helps out the network and all those kinds of things. And I've run past 11 o'clock. So thanks again, everybody, for everything this morning. I know that the discussion was long in the Twitch pitch, and I really appreciate it. Jason gave you the broadcast plans. 7 o'clock pregame show from Stade Saputo, and here on the SDH network, it will be the game against Crown Legacy. I want to say it's at 5 o'clock, so pregame show about 4:45 on Sunday. So follow along, set your notifications. The twos will be here on the SDH network coming up in short order. So it's been another busy week. Thanks to all of y'all for being a part of the SDH universe as it is. This audio gets rolled over in just a little bit. Thanks to all of you, and we'll be back at it again before you know it. So here on the network, we'll have other stuff later today. We'll have all of those other things to do. We got the twos coming up on Sunday. So since it is the end of the show, played safe, everybody. Mucho platial. It means I get to do this one, catch up with you guys in short order.